So really the main trick in raising children is to get them away from themselves. To wean them away from themselves. It also happens to be the main point of Chassidus. So the main message, and we have to be really, we have to be very resourceful in finding ways of conveying this message, but the message is, it's not about you. They're getting the opposite message. What's going to be with you? Why are you like this? Why aren't you like that? And they hate it. It's a generational thing. It's, I don't know, it's the generation before Mashiach. Any expectation that is made of them, they reject. It's like, I don't have to do anything, leave me alone. And they're right. Because there's a big difference between the expectation that he should become, or he should be, or he should do, versus what has to happen. There's an objective reality. You know, we're suffering from being too subjective. So there's also an objective reality. So the language that we absorbed from our parents, you have to, when will you, what's going to be with you, we got to drop that language completely. And what needs to be inspiring is an objective, greater goal or purpose or mission. And the Rebbe warned us about this for 50 years. You can't do what was done in the past. It's not going to work. There was one year, I forget which year it was, the Rebbe said that this year is going to be called and dedicated to the year of the of Yelad V'Yalda. It's the year of Yelad V'Yalda. And the Rebbe said, I'm specifically calling it Yelad V'Yalda, not Ben Ubas, because this has nothing to do with the parents. It has nothing to do with your being somebody's daughter or somebody's son. This is children independent of their parents. Pretty scary stuff, but it's so true. So let me give you a brief summary of the history of Chassidus, because we got stuck somewhere. The first 3 generations of Chabad Chassidus had one theme, one goal, and that is that Yiddishkeit, the enthusiasm, the inspiration that we have should not come from outside, it has to come from inside. Pnimius. You can't be inspired by a malach, by a tzaddik, by a nes, by a miracle, by that's so external. It's so powerful, but so external. It wears off. So you got to keep taking, like a drug. You have to keep repeating it because it's not yours. So the Alter Rebbe and the Mittler Rebbe and the Tzemach Tzedek, their whole emphasis was, don't be a chitzen. And that Chassidus, Chitzen is the opposite of Pnimius. Don't be external. Don't be superficial. Don't get excited about things that are not you. So there's a Rebbe who can bring dead people back to life. So you're going to be his chassid. Why? You want to bring dead people back to life? Wow! Look at this nest. Yeah, and what does it have to do with Avodas Hashem? So in those 3 generations, Hasidus created a new kind of human being who truly is not interested in malachim and going to heaven and being spiritual, being ruchnius, pnimius. How do you inspire yourself with pnimius? Through understanding. Get new information, you'll have new feelings. But new feelings coming from you saw an angel or you saw a miracle, that's not you. To some degree, believing, emunah, is not you. And that's why the Gemara says, you can have a person who is about to break into somebody else's house to rob him, but before he does, he davens, asking the Eibishter for success. He said, if you really believe in the Eibishter, why are you breaking into the house? Because I need the money. But what about the Eibishter? Yeah, without him I won't succeed. That's the nature of emunah. It doesn't change your character and it doesn't change your behavior. So by Chassidim, from the time of the Alter Rebbe, emunah, of course you have to have emunah. So what? Question is, what do you understand? What are you convinced of? And how did that affect your personality? And the result was awesome human beings. To the point where Moshe Meisels was able to control his heartbeat. That doesn't come from emunah. It comes from an internal, cultivated personality. Cultivated by seichel, be what you're supposed to be. It's like the difference between a person who happens to have a good voice versus a person who took voice lessons. The next 3 generations, the Rebbe Marash, the Rebbe Rashab, and the Frierdiker Rebbe, they demanded something different. They demanded that you not get caught or devoted to the knowable parts of Yiddishkeit, but to focus on the unknowable. Meaning to say, there are mishpatim, mitzvahs that make sense. They're enjoyable. There's something to discuss, to debate. Like if you're under duress, if you're going to lose a lot of money under certain circumstances, are you mekel, are you machmir? It's a whole thing. But then there is the essence of godliness, the essence of mitzvahs. No or yes. This is holy or not. And if it's not, then there's no negotiation, there's no conversation, there's nothing to talk about. No is no. And yes is absolutely yes. That's the difference between Giluyim and Etzem. When you get to the essence of something, there's no wiggle room. 3 generations of that message produced Hasidim who didn't know what it meant to compromise. So every mitzvah they did with Mesiras Nefesh. Like there's no choice. No choice. And we saw this visibly by the Frierdiker Rebbe's Chassidim. They were in labor camps, and they never did labor on Shabbos. How is that possible? Because Shabbos is Shabbos, and there's no negotiation. Yeah, but they're going to take away your food. They're going to throw you out of the bunk. What do you? Like Rubashkin. He runs around saying, "My emunah, my bitachon." Oh, come on! Don't be misleading. It's not emunah and it's not bitachon. It's no is no. What part of no don't you understand? So when they first arrested him, before he got to prison, he was in a jail, which is even more dangerous than prison. So they took away his clothes and gave him prison clothes. And then they said, "Come with us to the office." He said, "I don't walk without a talis katan." You know the story? It's amazing. They said, "Are you refusing an order?" He said, "No, I'm not refusing. I don't mind going to the office, but I can't walk without." He said, "Bring a wheelchair, you can take me." So they beat him up, and they dragged him. The second time, they brought a wheelchair. He won. But where does that come from? Emunah? What? What's emunah have to do with it? Bitachon? What does that have to do with it? Yes, he was absolutely certain he's going to get out of jail. Right now, are you going to walk or are they going to beat you up? I don't walk without a talis katan. Where's that coming from? Chutzpah?
No.
Yeah, a lot. Okay. That's 6 generations. Now, Der Hashvi. The Rebbe came and said, everything's got to change. Now, the Rebbe Marash didn't say, this is Der Haravi, everything's got to change. And the Rebbe Rashab didn't say, Der HaChamishi. Only the Rebbe. Der Hashvi, everything changes. What is the change? Like the difference between weekday and Shabbos. 6 days is weekday, and then it's Shabbos, Shvi. What is Shabbos? On Shabbos, you're not allowed to fix the world. 6 days, you're supposed to fix the world, elevate the world. On Shabbos, you're not allowed. So imagine, it's Friday afternoon, and you want to make one more preparation for Shabbos. So you want to put up the hot water chaynik, and you only have 10 minutes. You rush to put up the chaynik. What are you doing? A mitzvah. Then the siren goes off. And what you're doing becomes an avera. In a second. A second ago, it would be a mitzvah preparing for Shabbos. A second later, it's an avera. Chilul Shabbos. What was the mitzvah of Chassidus in the 6 days is on Shabbos not allowed. For 6 days, you fix the world, which means you elevate the human condition, the physical condition. On Shabbos, not allowed. For 6 generations, Chassidus elevated the chassid, the human being. The first 3 generations turned him into a pnimi. The next 3 generations turned him into a bal mesiras nefesh. Awesome human beings. Truly. Now comes Shabbos. You're not allowed to do anything to elevate the chassid and make him better.
Want to know I'm costless.
So in the olden days, during the 6 days of the week, a bacher would come to his mashpia and say, I have machshavas zaros. I have temptations, I sin. What would the mashpia say? Okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to chazah 3 maimarim by heart. You're going to fast today. You're going to do tshuva. And you're going to be careful where you look and what you think, and you can't do this and you can't that, and you're going to burn this thing out of you and you're going to become a mensch. In this generation, a bacher comes to the mashpia and says, I have machshavas zaros. The mashpia says, can we talk about something a little more important? You go on Miftzayim? Are you making a difference? Are you making a contribution? Yeah, machshavas zaros. Poor boy. Everybody has machshavas zaros. So what? It's a completely different approach. Like, for example, during the week, if you want to prepare food, like fish, you take out the bones. If you take the bones out, then the fish becomes edible. On Shabbos, you want to eat fish, you're not allowed to take out the bones. So how do you eat fish? You pick the meat off the bone. You don't take the bones out of the meat. In other words, you don't fix by eliminating the bad, you fix by focusing on the good. This explains our generation completely. What does it mean? Stop a guy in the street and put on tefillin with him. Or he didn't wash nagelwasser. And by the way, washing nagelwasser should become a priority on your... Because when you're raising children and you're handling their food, or you even see mothers put their finger in a baby's mouth, if you didn't wash nagelwasser, this is literally dangerous physically and spiritually. You got to be really careful. So, he didn't wash nagelwasser. What are you putting on tefillin with him? Well, he did wash his hands, I'm assuming, right? Yeah, but he never went to the mikveh and he's got tattoos. Should you ask him first if he believes in God? No? None of the above? Just put on tefillin? How does this make sense? A generation ago, did not make sense. It would not be allowed. So those people, I don't know, the Satmar, whoever it was, who said, Fed, this is a bezoyan mitzvah, you're degrading the tefillin, they're right. During the week, not on Shabbos. So it is a radical change. The Rebbe says, go on shlichus. I don't know if you're aware of this, but Hasidim said no. It's hard to believe, huh? The Rebbe said, go on shlichus, and Hasidim said no. They were shocked. Chasidus means work on yourself. More pnimis, more mesiras nefesh. Go tell others, that's not Chassidus. So the biggest Chassidim said no. They couldn't do it. The change was too radical. What does it mean, go on shlichus? You have to have some qualifications? You have to pass some test? You have to go through some training? No. Go. What are you good at? Nobody's asking you. You have any talents? Nobody's asking. Go. So who should go in shlichus? You know Aleph? Go teach Aleph. So you go off to a city, one-way ticket. What are you going to do there? I don't know. It was so strange. It was actually part of the challenge and the problem. You came to the city and you didn't know what to tell the people, like who you are and what you're doing there. So you're opening a shul? No. You're opening a school? No. But you're raising money. For what? I don't know. I'm here to help. We really didn't know. There was no definition. So what do? You go there and you'll see. Whatever. And that's why it is so amazing. This one opens a shul. This one opens a library. This one opens a soup kitchen. And this one hires a helicopter to schlep people out of the flood. So what is a shliach? Still don't know. Whatever. And here are people who are not qualified for anything. They don't know how to spell. They don't know how to add. They can't write their name.
So
But
the next generation, the syllabus is getting very tight, and if they don't know how to math, spell, what are they going to do?
But you need a helicopter. I'll get you a helicopter. How do you know how to get... The government is still confused about what to do, and you already have a helicopter flying. Well, the guy was, hey, you need a helicopter. In other words, no limits. No limits. Why is there no limits? Because it's not about me, it's what the Eibishter wants. Dira b'tachtenim is not my need, it's his need, and I'm trying to help. So from a very young age, we have to present this message very strongly because the schools are still a little schizophrenic. Today, if a teenager is sitting in class and the teacher or the mashpia, the mashashiva says, you have to become more, that's it, he's finished. And the student is right. I don't have to become anything. Lum it up. Leave me out of this. Not don't pay attention to me. Take the me out of it, because it's not about me. And if you try to tell me it's about me, I'm going to rebel. It's not conscious. So the message today is, can you do something for the Eibishter? Yes or no? The pressure is not on you, the pressure is on the Eibishter. He wants a dira b'tachtein. He created the world. He's waiting for Mashiach. And this does two things. First of all, it allows the teenager to remain sane. Because if you put pressure on him, am I good enough? Am I better? Does anybody like me? That narcissistic trap that everybody is caught in, Chassidus avoids it. I'm not in the mood to put on film. Okay. So, what are you going to do? I'm going to put on film. But I'm not in the mood. I know. So what? Or a bacher says, all this stuff, what do I need this for? So you try to convince him how much he needs it. Wrong direction. He says, what do I need this for? You don't. You don't. Or he says, I don't need this. I know. I don't either. So if you want to know the real bottom line danger in today's world, And the difference between us and them is so incredibly huge. When he says, I don't need to put on tefillin, he's really saying, I don't need anything. I don't even know why I was born. What am I here for? I don't need this. I don't need this. Life. I don't need life. And they get a little depressed about it and a little scared. And the parents, of course, assume that he's depressed. So you put him on medication, and that's the end. It's finished. It's downhill from there. But it is really true. The atmosphere, the ruach of this generation is, what, you need to live? Who needs to live? One generation ago, survival was everything. You had to live at all costs, at all expenses. You just had, and you had to be gesund. I mean, be gesund. Today, the norm is not the depressed people. The norm. What do I need this for? So there's this guy who's suing his parents for giving birth to him without his consent. Yeah. It's the sign of the time. Did I ask to be born? Why'd you make me be born? I don't want this. And he's not depressed. He's suing that they should pay all his bills. Far from depressed. Yeah. They threw it out of court. Both his parents are lawyers. Anyway, so you hear it from children. I didn't ask to be born. That's not an unhealthy attitude. It's right. It's exactly right. You didn't ask. If you didn't ask to be born, it's because you don't need to be. If you needed, you would ask. You don't need to be born. So why are you here? So this guy is suing his parents. You made me. So now you have to pay. Parents don't make life. They pass it on. Why? Why was your child born? There was this family in Minnesota. After we had our 9th child, she was a supporter, so you couldn't start up with her. But she was a little. She says, "When you figure out what's causing it, will you stop already?" Why are your children born? They're asking, consciously, unconsciously, and the answer is, not for you. You were not born for you. Because as far as you're concerned, you don't need this. And you really don't. That's all these people who run to Mekubalim in Eretz Yisrael out of desperation. And they, oh, you're here to make a tikkun. This is your tikkun for the wrong direction. It's more narcissism, more about you. Now you're worried about yourself in this life and your past life, and your ego is just getting completely out of control. You don't need to be born. And even if you're here to make a tikkun, you need to make the tikkun. No, you don't. This is Shabbosdik. During the week, it's a mitzvah to think, what more can I do to make myself better? On Shabbos, you don't count. It's Shabbos. Shabbos hayom laHashem. It's what the Eibishter wants. It's what the Eibishter needs. It's not about you anymore. Knock it off. It saves lives. It's such a relief. But there are two parts to the answer. The first part is, you don't need, you're right. You don't need anything. You didn't need to be born. On the other hand, you're indispensable to somebody else. That is perfect. It's perfect psychologically. It's perfect ruchnistic. You're only here because he needs you. You're here to serve him. What about yourself? Who cares? So, can you imagine when the Rebbe said, we have to fix the world? Who has to fix the world? Everybody. Because the Eibishter is waiting. So somebody comes and says, fix the world. I have to do tshuva for my own avedas. And the Rebbe was like, how can you be so petty? Do you hear this? Doing tshuva for your aveda is so petty it's embarrassing. There's a whole world, and you're busy fixing your little aveda. That's like living in a ghetto. So the Rebbe opened up godliness to what it really is. If a guy were to ask, should I go on shlichus? I'm not really sincere. I don't really want to help anybody else. That's why you won't go? Because you're not sincere? Who cares about your sincerity? Go do it. It's such a relief. And it's such an antidote to this narcissism. How did that make you feel? Well, how do you feel now? You must be very traumatized. You don't think you are? You are.
I have a question. Is this message only to them, or is this a general message also for us?
Everybody.
So, I listened recently to a class that was about Geulah, and the message of it was, it seems like in a way opposite, I'm sure maybe you could connect it. It was saying that basically we have to first get our Geulah Pratit before we move on to Geulah Kali. The Geulah Kali is the consumption of our Geulah Pratiot. It was kind of saying the opposite in a practice level.
That's what I'm telling you. The message of a generation ago is the opposite of the generation that we're
So
in.
you're saying that the person who was giving over the lecture was basically stuck in the previous system.
How can you dismiss? Yeah. That's exactly the issue. It's exactly the issue. Look, we are the last generation of Golus and the first generation of Geula. That is torture. Either let me stay in Golus or wake me up when Geula comes. But to be it's literally, it's so... So we can't just dismiss 6 generations of Chassidus. So let's use that as a perfect example. You have to fix yourself before you can fix the rest of the world. That means focus on yourself. No, that's not what it means. It means you want to fix the world, start with yourself. You see how the Deir Shvi has to... The goal is to fix the world. You're sitting in yeshiva, what access do you have to the world? Okay, so fix yourself as part of the world. But not you come first. Never. The world needs to get fixed. You're a piece of the world, so fix yourself. So everything has to be seen through the Rebbe's eyes. Even Tanya. People have such a problem with Tanya. I'm sure we're all confused about it. What does Tanya say?
We're human.
Tanya says, you're not a tzaddik, you have to be a Beinani. Right. Right.
That's what we're up to.
Huh?
What we're up to.
We're working on it. We very quickly realize he ain't never going to be a Beinani. Okay, so that's it. The end of Tanya. But now, think about this. If you ask a chassid of the Frierdiker Rebbe, or of the Rebbe Rashab, what does Tanya say? Tanya says, you have to be a Beinani. You read through Tanya. Past Perek Yud Beis or Yud Gimel, the word Beinani is never mentioned. You notice this? The first 12 prakim say, you're not going to be a tzaddik, you don't want to be a Rasha, be a Beinani. After that, Beinani is not mentioned anymore. How can that be? There are 53 prakim, only 12 talk about a Beinani? So you can say, well, the rest is talking to the Beinani. What is the conclusion of Tanya? Now you are a Beinani. Nope. The conclusion of the Tanya is, Ze kol ha'odam v'tachlis briyasayu briyas kol ha'olam eisel yoinim v'tachteinim, that you should be a Beinani? No. Li yes loy dira b'tachteinim. What happened to the Beinani? That was the preparation, not the goal. The goal is the Eibishter has to have what he created the world for. And this is the tachlis. You're not a Beinani? Oh, poor you. Nobody's going to want to marry you. The fact is that anybody today who sincerely, deeply wants to be a Beinani and tries is going to have a nervous breakdown. Guaranteed. They're going to get weird. Because it's not the Avodah of this generation. You imagine somebody davening for 6 hours. In the days of the Rebbe Rashab, that would be, that's a chassid. Davens for 6 hours. Can you imagine somebody sitting under the talis for your husband? If he sat under the talis for 6 hours,
Maybe that's what he's doing, Bela.
if your husband is sitting under the talis for 6 hours, get him some therapy. Seriously. What's he thinking? 6 hours? What's he thinking? He's cracking up. That's what he's doing. It's real. This is the Rebbe Rashab empowered his chassidim to be able to daven for 6 hours. The Rebbe did not. We are not empowered with that. People say, oh, you don't know how long the Rebbe davened. It was in his room. Hey, he davened in 20 minutes, okay?
How do you give this over to a kid who's already in that narcissist stage?
The real issue,
That's saying you have to.
the real issue is that you sit in 770 and you learn the Rebbe Rashab's Maimar all day long, all the years. It's schizophrenic. And that's why many times shluchim complain. I sat in yeshiva, all those years, all those hours, I learned Samach Vav, and I learned Ayim Beis, and now I go on Shlichus. None of that is helpful. What am I going to do? Sit and learn Samach Vav with my Balabatim? So there's like a disconnect. Like, what did the yeshiva give me that's useful? It's confusing. So what does the Rebbe say? You learned Ayim Beis. You know what it says? That it's not about you. You learn Samach Vav, guess what it says? It's not about you. You learn Tanya? Don't become a Beinani. Don't become a
It
Beinani.
says, why am I here? It's not about you, it's Hashem's world. That's the whole thing?
Take the burden off. So the first thing is the loisesa. Don't make demands of him or her. You're fine the way you are. Can you do something useful? But never, well, what's going to become of you? What's wrong with you? Be a mensch. That's going in the wrong direction.
The expectations actually within our, okay, it's not maybe a conversation for now, but the expectations in our system are quite high. You're expected to sit in, for boys, sit and learn from 7 a.m. to, the expectations are so high.
Why?
I don't know.
Every kid is asking, why am I sitting here learning for hours? What's the answer? That's what you do. Got to go to yeshiva. Huh?
That yeshivas should be still learning. The Rebbe still learning, or is the yeshivas still learning?
That's leftover.
Well, the question is, will we be able to replace it with something useful? They have to replace, they can't just send them home and then, we need to know, we need to give our kids, they need to have that usefulness, they need to.
I'm not even talking someone
So here's-
boys and she goes an example, even the girls, the expectations of the Yiddishkeit, the sneeze, everything is so much is expected from them.
No, but the new thing.
But it is
and
very
this
expected. We expect so much from our kids,
maybe
and it is a burden on them.
a different subject, and this is the same. What bothers me the most, maybe because it's my issue with it, even though I try, is the sneers that they put into everything nowadays. Yeah, because I think
Why is
it's,
it relevant?
I don't know, it's just one of these things that bothers me.
Okay.
My
But
teenagers,
it's pressure on them.
no, it's,
But it
my
is-
5-year-old has a show on Friday, and the song is about Queen Esther and thing, and then the word sneers is in there about us. They add sneers, they changed the song one year, the one about the Tem Mifsaim that we used to sing when we were kids. What was the song? Yeah, Terry Mostadi, whatever that one, and they added sneers, they put sneers in there. Sneers was not one of the Tem Mifsaim. So this obsession with sneers
And it's
is really, and I try, and I'm so careful.
It's very focused on self.
It's
And
just,
the kids feel it.
So what
You know,
about me about the sneeze part from the inside?
it's an obsession, and it just is one thing that just rubs me the wrong way.
How do you help them, based on this question, develop their sneeze from the inside when they're young?
Isn't it interesting that the Rebbe didn't make it a mitzvah?
Yeah.
Oh, and Rebs and Chaimashkin now, that's what we only hear about, Rebs and about sneers, that also, was not something.
How come the Rebbe never made a mitzvah sneeze?
Subject in school. Yes, no subject. It was like a thing. It was your feeling. It was your home.
So I think I think we're having a problem with sneeze that is out of character. And I think the reason is, for most of Torah and mitzvahs, we were successful in getting across the message that you do mitzvahs because it's Avodas Hashem. When it came to tznius, we made it personal. Don't be tznius because it's a mitzvah. Be tznius because you're a slut. Because look at you. We made it personal, and it doesn't fit with the rest of Yiddishkeit. So there was a rebellion. Like, what? And another thing. Everything in Chabad, everything in the Rebbe's world was Hasidus. Hasidus Chabad. There was a chassid from the Rebbe Rashabia who was walking up the stairs of 770 early in the 50s. And he was singing a niggun from some Polish chassidim. He didn't know the Rebbe was walking behind him. The Rebbe caught up with him, and as the Rebbe walked past him, he said, Chabad nigunim not good enough for you? Like, why are you even singing, right? Chabad has its own, and we go according to... Tznius was, in Williamsburg, they're more tznius. That doesn't look right. I mean, if they're so... All of a sudden, we're comparing ourselves to somebody else, and because of them, there was a rebellion. You got to be consistent. So tznius is failing because we made an issue. And it's not the Chabad system. It's not. You don't do this with any other mitzvah.
What do we say when it comes to
They're coming from a place of
The thing
fear,
is
I
also, it's
feel.
not just teenagers, it's 20, 30, 40, 50-year-olds.
Yeah, it's out of control.
It's not even our generation so much. It's generation like 10 years younger than us. That's when tznius, the focus became
It's the leggings.
so intense. The kids rebelled.
It started with it did. It pushed it off the boat.
And if you take a look at the old wedding pictures,
Yeah, they were less.
they were much less tznius.
Yes.
They were much less tznius.
My mother's generation, they always...
Because
Yeah.
But it wasn't something
it wasn't a
that...
koch. It wasn't a
It wasn't a
koch.
koch. So but what happened here is it became a koch in the outside world. And then Chabad is like, we have to. And so they adopted all the Beis Yaakov Musar. The only thing that's, I mean, I don't know if the only thing, but the big thing that's Musar and Beis Rivka is tznius. That's where the Musar comes in. And that's why the girls can't handle it. They can't. Because they
feel
can't
like it
handle the
takes-
Musar. They're
it
not
takes-
used to being raised with Musar. But they're petrified. I know, because I'm petrified. We're coming from a place of fear, and when we raise our kids with fear, that's not strength, it's fear.
So when
But-
the Rebbe was Masada Kedushin, he had two conditions. The chassan had to have a beard, and the kala had to wear a sheitel. Long sleeves, open neckline.
Isn't that halacha?
What?
Long sleeves and neckline?
Halachas, actually.
That's
From what I understand,
It is.
the halach.
But the Rebbe didn't fight it. The Rebbe fought sheitel.
Why? Why? I mean, the sneeze is
It brings out sneeze, maybe. It brings out the beauty of it.
Why was the shaitel such a, it's erva, but so is
No,
Aries and
it's
so is,
not.
well.
It's a different level.
I'm not
It's
sure.
the opposite of what all the other.
I'm not sure, but I can tell you,
Like they think it's not sneeze.
I can tell you, children,
Better like that, it's not, it's a separate, it's like there's, like, Sfaradim, the focus to Rabbi why the Paskins to put on Pachot is because to him the focus is the tznius focus. There's two aspects of it, and probably both are necessary in the world, based on my observation, but the Kisuosh is, I was one Rosh Hashanah when I first moved to Crown Heights, I was wearing a tichel and tishul, and there was a rabbi who came and was speaking, and he pulled out the Zal saying on, I don't know if it was directed to me, but I felt really embarrassed after I said I'm going to wear, sheitel. So he pulled out the Zal, and it was saying, I don't remember anymore, that it was like 4 years ago, the exact words, but it was basically saying that every hair in here that is not covered, doesn't matter if it's someone else's hair or whatever, it's like, it doesn't have a cover over it. It's like a Kabbalistic way of like Hashem is the Rosh Keter, like it has to have a cover. It sustains a lot of mazikim in the world. So I don't know. That's the best answer I got so far for that. It has like a lot of power, influence in the world when it comes to every little hair. So the sheitel is the best covering hair. Like you could not put on, at least my shape head, a tichol without some hairs showing.
Right.
I don't know.
as far as children are concerned, children are more damaged by seeing their mother's hair than by seeing the mother's elbows. I don't know why.
I think the covering, from what my understanding, and I'm not very learned, But covering the hair is not a sneas issue. It's two separate things. Sneas is covering of the body, and that's sneas. And covering the hair is a separate halacha or a separate meaning. It comes from somewhere completely different
Obviously,
source.
because it only comes on when you get married.
It has nothing to do with
Girls' hair is
sneas.
completely kosher.
So that's why what you're saying makes sense. Covering the hair. I mean, obviously, you know more than I do. But covering the hair is not a sneas issue. It's a different subject. That's really that's
girls
wrong.
are not coming
So you're saying that when the Rebbe was focused on did she cover her hair, he wasn't even coming from
It
a
wasn't
sneer
about
standpoint.
sneers.
It was a matter of is she
It's
covering
the
her
covering the
shaitel?
hair.
What was the
Yeah.
condition, to wear shaitel at all times?
No, shaitel
No,
at the
shaitel
wedding.
at the
wedding.
No, to wear a shaitel after you're married.
Oh, after you marry?
After
Not
you
just for the
marry, not for
chuppah,
the
not
wedding.
starting at the chuppah.
No, they actually didn't wear a shaitel to the
Oh,
chuppah.
But it was
So it
actually
wasn't like
with-
sometimes tichel, sometimes shaitel, or,
The Rebbe was saying shaitel rather than tichel. And that got a backlash. No shaitel. Rebbe was different in everything. Anyway, so let's go back to the... From the youngest age, you do a mitzvah, not because you're a tzaddikel, or a mitzvah boy, and all these other, like,
So 1 second, what about Tzivas Hashem? What about the ranks? There is, I'm becoming a sergeant, I'm becoming I mean, it is for the general, I guess, maybe.
that's the
come from that.
emphasis.
Uh-huh.
So continue your sentence. So you do a mitzvah because
Because the Eibishter is waiting. So what should they be learning in yeshiva?
so she shouldn't be doing mitzvahs. They should be Hashem is proud of me or something.
So what's the comment you say, instead of saying, oh, you're tzaddik?
No, the mitzvah is fine, but this is what I did. I did something I added to the world.
So you're, but,
Hashem is happy?
No, Hashem is
a little bit
waiting.
not the same. It's viewed
He
down.
needs your mitzvah.
So amongst other
So in yeshiva, they should be learning, what does it mean, Ratzon Elyon? What does it mean the Eibishter needs a mitzvah? What's the relationship between the Eibishter and the mitzvah? Why does he care if we do the mitzvah? But it should all be about him. And there's a lot to learn. And it's very inspiring.
But the Tanya does come across as when you start Tanya, say
Yes.
for me, it's about me.
Yes.
And maybe that's just the hook. I don't know, because that's what got me excited. It's like, oh wow, this is gonna explain me to myself.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So the first thing it tells you is, not going to be a tzaddik. Okay. Beinani? Try. Halavai, be a Beinani. But really, dira b'tachtaina. So it's literally weaning you away from yourself. If you feel pressure to be a tzaddik, don't. You feel pressure to be a Beinani? No, that's not what it's about. So you're a Rosha. Yeah.
It could be it's easier with ourselves. When we look at our children, we want them to be little tzaddikas. We want them to be perfect more than us. And we put that pressure on them, and we feel the fear or the nervousness of what's going to be with them. How do you let go of that?
What we can do for the Eibishter is so much greater than what improvements we can make in ourselves. What's the competition? What's the question?
So if you see that they're not improving, they are what they are.
If they can make a bracha because the Eibishter wants, they have improved. What all improvement means, what is higher madrega? What's a higher madrega? Less about me. That's a higher madrega. So you want your child to be on a high madrega? Stop feeding him arrogance.
But a natural tendency in a child, and especially a teen, is me.
The whole job is to wean them away. That's called chinuch. It's also called raising. That's called raising. You know where they are. Get them out of there.
So a practical example.
So maybe it's just about getting them doing stuff. Like,
And knowing who they're doing it for.
practice.
not just a
Saying, like,
routine.
Right.
to do
So
good.
when you,
Good.
so,
That's
okay,
it.
so when you
That's
have
it.
an 8-year-old and you're saying, you know, but when it's a teenager, there has to be the philosophy behind it. You have to start, you need to go into that. You can't just, you know, when you're saying a 6-year-old do a mitzvah for Hashem,
They'll do it.
it's exciting, you know, but when you
They'll
have
do
a
it for the
13,
listening.
14-year-old,
Yeah.
it doesn't, you need to give,
Hours of yeshiva to produce that conviction and that excitement.
If they're learning the right thing in yeshiva.
Yes. So, there's this children's book. Frum. And by the way, do you like any of the children's books? No.
I think there are some.
Some of them I hate.
I think some of them.
Anybody here written some? I'm going to start up with it.
Just labels for label and
Yeah, those are good.
message addresses.
And then there might be worse ones, the doormat.
Oh, I think
Doormat
you
one.
kinda say, a lot of them kind of say the thing that you're saying,
For
that's
us,
what you gotta
it's
do.
horrible.
It's terrible.
It's time for Tyra, like say, or
Some of them have the message,
Or-
like the wrong at the last line, it's good, like labels for label. It's all about, what was it, like me, and my label and me. And the last line of the book is like, he threw it in the garbage and their friends, and the kid like was already falling asleep by then. So like, those, yeah, they don't get the message, they're already in the last page, they're done. But the whole book is all about like.
That's like at,
But kids
like at the Seder.
same thing, like Mrs. Sheehan.
You want to tell them that Yidden came out of Mitzrayim, but no, they got stuck with the frogs.
Yeah, no, sometimes the book is all about like how it's wrong to do this, wrong to do that, and then, but this is what you should do. I can't think exactly, but
So-
labels.
I don't know, I'm thinking, let's say, there's one, it only takes a second.
Yeah.
It only takes a second to say thank you. I kind of think it's saying what you're saying. We have to do what we have to do. Just because.
So take a look at most of the children's
What would you
books.
even say that you like?
They're all,
Oh, you don't.
they're all saying, you're great, you're good. Hashem loves you, you. It's, so,
Self-confidence.
so here's this book that very, very briefly, a little boy didn't like going to the old age home every Friday with the class. He didn't understand why they did that. Why was that necessary? Well, he hated. One time they went, and as he was singing, he noticed that there was an old man in a wheelchair staring at him, and when they finished singing, the old man smiled. So he came home and he told his mother, now I know why we go, because I realized that I had done a great mitzvah.
I sense there's something wrong with that. Like,
It's not about you doing the mitzvah, it's about doing what you're supposed to be doing for them, or whatever your purpose is.
This is training a little monster. There's a lonely old man, and you allowed him to smile, and you're coming home because you did a big mitzvah.
what would be like an approach? It's a kid, so the kid's gonna have that approach. 'Cause the child-
You don't have to write a book about it. If
You
you're
have to do something at night with that.
if
So
you're
what would be
right,
the last line?
if you're writing a book, it's because you want to get him on the right track. So if a kid comes home and says that, you have to straighten this kid out. You did a big mitzvah. Really, you agree with me, or
What would you say?
What's the opposite of that?
what?
He didn't come home, so
What should he be happy about?
that he just did a mitzvah for Hashem.
No.
That he made someone happy. No.
The opposite. He should come home and say, the old man smiled.
That's why I go.
He was happy.
So now I made the old man smile, the old man smile.
Not only that, I did a mitzvah means he doesn't count. I got a mitzvah. Another point on the chart. That's so heartless. It's so inhumane. This is going to be a monster.
That's what Mipsayim is turning into. They try to encourage Mipsayim in school just for your check.
Well, that's you saying about the whole.
But that's the thing. So are we not supposed to feel fulfilled? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I don't even think us. I think the kids. The kids need to feel like I don't
We
say good
do
about
use
themselves, that sounds very
incentives. We do use
2019, but they do need to
incentives to get
feel
That they make a difference? They
Yeah.
make a difference?
that they're, good about themselves.
Right.
Scared. Because that's your opinion.
No, we.
Good about
there's
yourself.
other-
Not good about themselves, I know that sounds.
Good about yourself means I'm not worried about myself.
I'm not worried about myself.
I'm okay.
That's good. That is a good self-image. I'm proud of myself, bad self-image.
Why?
Too much self.
Ego.
So a bad self-image and a high self-image, same problem. Same thing. A really healthy self-image is one that you don't have to worry about.
We say to our kids, you should be proud of yourself. No, don't want to say that. You should be proud of that, whatever, you know?
So we got to be careful with that. You got to say, wow, that was the right thing to do. That was good.
Can you say that when you got to put a mark on the test? You should be proud of yourself. That has no bearing on anyone else.
That's not a mitzvah thing.
That's not a
You
mitzvah
can't say
thing.
that.
That's
It's
just
not
a
to do with
personal
mitzvah.
achievement.
Because that's what they
Anytime
tell
we
us,
can
that
avoid-
instead of us saying we are proud of you, we tell them that you should be proud of you. That's what I've read articles. Or
That's the Mishigas of our generation. Love yourself, confirm yourself, validate yourself. And even Chassidim are saying,
Yeah.
V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha means you have to love yourself first. That is so disturbed. Well, don't you have to love yourself? No, you don't have to. It comes natural. It's not a job. Like, these positive message things that they hang on the wall. There was one sign that said, "Every day, do something you enjoy." Duh. Like, what do you think I do every day, all day? I don't need to be told to like myself.
Every day do something for others or do something to make someone else.
Beyond yourself.
Right.
Every day, get beyond yourself. It's the happiest, healthiest, and holiest. Amazing. So, with your teenagers, if they're uncomfortable, if they're rebelling, if they're frustrated, you understand why. So am I okay? Not okay? That's their issue, that's their struggle. You help them a lot by saying, you're fine. I like you the way you are. I'm not expecting you to become anything other. Let's go on Miftzayim. It is such a relief when you say to a teenager, yeah, you are who you are. What's the problem? Such a relief. Because they're so self-conscious and they're so burdened by what they're supposed to be, not supposed to be. So if a kid comes and says, I have such a Yetzer Hara. You do? Welcome to the club. So what should I do about my Yetzer Hara? What should you do about your Yetzer Hara? What, are you going to give him attention? Don't give him any attention. Be busy with good things. That's such a relief.
So that should be the goal from young to old. Just fill your day with goodness.
And the more you can get away from yourself, which is a full-time job, because you got to keep reminding yourself, you keep slipping back. But I don't like it, but I'm bored. So it's got to be not just stay busy, busy, busy. You got to know that you're doing the most incredible, holiest, most godly thing in the world. And that should become your excitement and your pleasure and your enjoyment.
Can I ask how you could relate that to davening, telling kids about davening? I mean, it's all the daven, let's see when they're home. How do they find that connection? And it's not about you must daven, it's for Hashem. It's a
Yeah,
Hashem,
yeah.
it's a right of Hashem, but like,
So I was talking.
the words they don't understand, it's
Yes.
not so that they can do, it's just
Yep.
davening.
Yep. I was talking to this young couple. He's a convert and she's a Baal Tshuva. And they were very new to Yiddishkeit. They have 2 children, a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old. And in the middle of conversation, completely spontaneously, the mother said, "Oh, no, my son knows that if he hits his sister, he can't daven that day." That's so brilliant. If you don't behave, you don't get to daven. What do? The exact opposite. You hit your sister, go daven. There's your punishment. And then we wonder why they hate davening. So I was speaking to the teachers of Ola Torah, and they were all saying, davening it's a killer. Mm-hmm. Kids come in, they're into bad mood at the beginning of the day, and the day is shot. Mm-hmm. I said, so don't daven. You have to teach kids to daven. I said, but you're not. You're teaching them not to daven. Stop it. If the parents care, let them daven at home. They're before bar mitzvah. They don't have to daven. So stop turning them off. No. Nope. Okay, so already we see the mentality is clashing with the student. No, they're going to they're going to
op-ed page though. If the one of the Rebbe said, "Okay, we're not davening today because you didn't deserve it," oh my goodness, it would be such an uproar.
But it's so sensible.
True, but it's within the way.
So imagine saying to your child, which part of the davening do you want to say to Hashem?
What if nothing?
Fine.
They don't understand any part of it.
Fine.
They know it in the school, but they still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with benching.
Benching's so long.
Benching's really hard.
Yep. Imagine saying to a child, I mean, it's just so reasonable. It's so. You say to a child, you haven't davened yet today, have you? You want to say Ashrei? Say Ashrei, David should. Say Adonai Lam. In other words, make the davening appealing, pleasant. In fact, if you sit there davening and you really don't want to, does David should appreciate that? That's for you, but for the Eibishter. It's like these people who scream in davening and they jump up and down. Excuse me, you think the Eibishter appreciate? If you talk to me like that, I'd throw you out of the house. You're talking to the Eibishter and you're jumping, and what is that? So if you consider the Eibishter's perspective, so if a kid doesn't feel like davening, but he'll say Ashrei, he'll say Krishma, you don't think the Eibishter appreciates that? So again, when the pressure is on the child, it's burdensome. When you're telling him the Eibishter enjoys you,
Then the message is about you again. It was you.
small y,
Smaller than you.
a small y, like a little olive from Vayikra. By the way, do it for yourself too. No pressure on you. Are you a good mother? Not really.
Ask my kids.
You don't want me to ask your kids? Say, do you sometimes walk around feeling like, am I a good mother?
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't be a good mother. Just pay attention to your kids, okay? Will that make you a good mother? Who cares? If you have happy kids, nobody's going to ask you if you're a good mother.
There's no cleanup, don't do laundry, no homework. Be the best mother.
No, as soon as you make the pressure on, I have to, not in this generation. Here, one more little incident. Mendel Futterfass came out of Russia, and he was standing by a Fabringen, and so the Rebbe was talking about, I think, a Rashi, and said, the answer has to be so simple that even a 5-year-old would understand it. Because if it takes effort, then it's not for this generation. If it takes avodah, then it's not. Reb Mendel's whole life. Reb Mendel's,
What we have to do. How did the kids become this like?
yeah, but Reb Mendel, his whole life is that he is an Ovid. He worked hard all his life. And the Rebbe says, not for this generation. In that same Fabringen, the Rebbe said something about Mesiras Nefesh. And he said, Mesiras Nefesh, that's for Goyim. Let Goyim have Mesiras Nefesh. We don't know Mesiras Nefesh. What is the greatness of Reb Mendel? His Mesiras Nefesh. So at this Fabringen, the Rebbe wiped him out. Mesiras Nefesh, Avodah, no. I kept looking at him to see, how is he handling this? Amazing. He was one of the few who were able to make a complete switch. No? Okay. So when he's sitting in a car with Rabbi Reichik, and they're stopped at a red light or something, and he says, Rabbi Reichik, say a maimer. Doesn't have a maimer. He says, so Chazar Asicha. He said, okay, fine, so say the psukim. The 12 psukim. Here's a chassid who is bigger than life, fought the whole communist system. He wants to say the psukim that the Rebbe taught the children. Because it's probably more important than my Mesiras Nefesh. That's an amazing. He went from Friday to Shabbos. He made the switch. So don't ask yourself if you're a Beinani, a good Jew, a bad Jew, a big chassid, a little chassid. That's killing us. It's killing us. All the politics, all the nastiness. Who's a real chassid? Who's a makusha? You're not a makusha. I'm a makusha. I thought we outgrew this. So we know in the secular world, if your child does something bad, you never say you're a bad boy. Chas v'sholom. What you did was bad. But when he does something good, you say, you're such a good, you're a tzaddik. Be consistent. If he does something good, you should say, that was good. That's how you do it. Why do you have to say you're a tzaddik? Every compliment today is a burden to the child. You're such a tzaddik. Oh, I have to be a tzaddik?
It's all the years of parenting.
We tell them they're smart, and then I'm only good because I'm smart.
Right.
You're the smartest kid. No, I'm not. Stop it. Too much pressure. Kids can't handle a microaggression. How can they handle a compliment?
So
How about like encouragement though? How about encouragement? Like a child is taking a test and is afraid,
They're
you know,
nervous.
they're nervous about it, and you say, well, you know, you can do it, or you're smart enough.
3
Is
means
that,
Or it's just a test.
well, it's getting into nursing school, but.
Oh, you're talking about, you're not talking about a 7-year-old.
No, I'm talking about like a teenager. I'm saying something, obviously it's just a test, but if it's something
getting into
important.
seminary.
Getting into seminary.
Oh, it's terrible. I just heard from a bunch of Beis Rivka girls. They hate it. They're
The
not going.
process?
Yes.
The process.
They're not going because they don't want to go through that
The
process.
That's nice to hear. It's time
Like they're afraid of
The question is,
No,
They just
the
don't want
pressure, the
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 pressure.
interviews
Stress
and
and
the
pressure.
stress.
a whole year of torture for the next year. The whole 11th grade is getting good grades for seminary.
Doesn't matter, it's like farther down.
I feel a little bit like, okay, so maybe I'm a little different because I started Hasidus on my own, but I got excited about Tanya because, oh wow, this is going to explain me to myself. And then later on when I learned, well, it's really not about you, that was like, whoa, I don't even know if I want to do this because I came to this because it's about me. So then I realized, wow, it really isn't about myself, and I realized, again, it's about something so much greater and so much more cosmic, and I love the fact that it's not just another check, and it's not just, but I did that on my own, and obviously, I lost that, the message got lost in translation when I was giving it over to my kids, or can they do it by themselves, or, because like, as you were saying it, I was like, right, I got that, when I was still first learning Hasidus, like, I got that, but now, I didn't translate it to chinuch, how did I lose that? Or is it just something that maybe they have to learn by themselves? Maybe they have to, I don't know. I feel like, because I got that when I started learning Hasidus. I did get that. So how did I lose that? And how did maybe I was just trying to be the perfect mother and I had to be the one that was building them up. And
Or you followed the message of the school. You know, going back to the history, it took 3 generations, 3 Rebbes, to make Hasidim into Pnimim. It took 3 generations and 3 Rebbes to make Hasidim into Bali Mesiras Nefesh, and the Rebbe, one, created this new kind of Chassid.
so it's
Who-
okay that we're a little messed up.
Who will? But you know how he did it? Farbrengens every Shabbos? Unheard of. So the Rebbe poured like 3 generations worth into. So how does it happen? Not by itself. The Rebbe had to put lots and lots and lots of work into it to be mechanech us. So you have to teach it. But you think for a second, the strongest bonds that develop between people is soldiers in battle together. They're not critical of each other. There's no thought, I'm a better soldier than you. What kind of soldier are you? No. They're so devoted to the cause. And sharing that makes them the best friends in the world. So it's not like if you're just doing what the Eibishter wants, you're nothing. On the contrary, you're the healthiest, you're the happiest, you're the most naturally productive human being. You're more capable of making friends.
Because they don't see that tangibly. Why though? Why? When you tell that to a kid, they'll say, "But why is that better for me?" Like you're saying, people in battle, they're working together.
Oh,
they
so-
see maybe an outcome.
So if you're
themselves an enemy, but kids, they don't see something happening.
So
when they work hard, when they serve Hashem.
yeah, so somebody said something about modeling. If you're doing it, and you have your child doing it with you, that's perfect. Part of the generation gap in our times is that children never do anything with their parents parents do things with their children. Parents take their kids to piano lessons, to karate lessons. When do the children try to live up to the parents? They don't even know what the parents do. Father goes off in the morning, comes back at night. What does he do? He's a day trader. I don't know what that means. And I certainly can't go with him to the office. So the break is total. So then what happens? The father comes home. He goes where the kid wants to go. That makes him a good father. No, it makes him a useless father. So if we're living it and we're enjoying it, and your kid is doing it with you, the bonding is like two soldiers. Let's get this done. Let's bring Mashiach. It's really quite exciting. Hatzlacha Rabba.